So let me introduce, we've got two people doing very exciting things in the nation. Kerry Mehaffey is the Director of Business and Economic Development with the Lil'wat Nation. Kerry's worked for the nation for 11 years in various capacities. For the past 7 years, he's led the Lil'wat Business Group, the Lil'wat Nation's arm's-length for-profit business entity, including forestry, retail, and land development activities. Originally from Nanaimo, Kerry holds a BSc in Geography and Environmental Studies from the University of Victoria and an MSc in Public Policy and Management from the University of London, as well as Executive Education certificates from the University of BC and Harvard Business School. Kerry lives in Pemberton with his wife and two little ones, and he will be accompanied by the lovely Maxine Joseph-Bruce, who we met earlier. Maxine is, in addition to being an elected councillor on the Chief and Council for the Lil'wat Nation, Maxine is passionate about First Nations title, rights, and responsibilities. As a member, she's on the operating board of directors and president of Lil'wat Business Corporations for the nation, continuing to develop economic opportunity and working from the positive. Committed to improving the Lil'wat economy, she's held the economic development portfolio for nearly a decade, and thanks to the leadership and community for trusting in her abilities and commitment, I'll add undoubtedly from my end. She considers that building relationships and partnerships are some of the most essential building blocks for reconciliation and for developing a sustainable Lil'wat. Asked about her leadership achievements, she cites learning how to carry the bigger responsibilities that are coming our way. The personal achievement that makes Maxine the happiest is watching her two adult children who are coming into their own and are strong and independent. Whether in the community or at the council table, she strives to work from a place of kindness and compassion, employing a phrase she learned from a dear friend: be hard on the problem and soft on the people. I love it, leading with compassion. So without further ado, Kerry and Maxine, come on up. If we need a second microphone for you, just let me know, we'll make that happen. But
awesome. Again, thanks for being here today, and it's always a very interesting to speak on our successes. It's taken a lot of commitment and consistency from our boards of directors. You'll see a lot of very positive things, and you've heard a little bit from Mike about how we're working together, and I'm sure you're going to hear more about that relationship that we're building with the resort municipality and the community of Whistler. So very exciting for me to be here to share some of those things with you guys.
So thank you very much, everyone, and thanks to Pat and the Whistler Real Estate Company for inviting the Lil'wat to participate in today's event. As mentioned, I'm Kerry Mehaffey. I've had the pleasure of working for the Lil'wat Nation in a variety of capacities for just over 11 years. So that's been a really great experience for me. And I'm really here today to talk about the Lil'wat Business Group. And so the Lil'wat Business Group, for those of you who are not familiar, which I assume is almost everybody in the room, is actually an arm's length set of companies that are owned by the Lil'wat Nation. So it's sort of designed on best practices. We actually have a separate board of directors and a specific mandate to be a profit-driven organization. So we sort of have sort of diverse operations in forestry, retail. We have a large real estate portfolio, and although we haven't been very active with it, I think that we're going to see that changing over the next couple of years. So before we really get into what the Lil'wat Business Group is and what we do, I just want to talk a little bit about what the nation has been doing in Whistler over the last 20-ish years. So really starting off back in 2001, the nation actually had a representative on the original bid committee for the 2010 Olympic Games, and that sort of rolled into being one of the 4 host First Nations. As Mike mentioned, the Legacy Land Agreement, so that involved sort of significant portions of Crown land being provided to both the Squamish and Lil'wat Nations jointly, and the municipality for the development of the Checkmist Crossing neighborhood, the construction of the Squamish Cultural Center, a partnership with the Resort Municipality of Whistler and the Squamish Nation on a community forest in the areas surrounding Whistler and Whistler Blackcombs Controlled Recreation Area. And then sort of some of the developments we've actually completed. So that's a picture of the Red Sky Townhome development. So the nation was a partner through to the completion of that project up in the Rainbow neighborhood. And as well, we were a landholder, and we rezoned the Alpine North property, which became Baxter Creek. And for a variety of reasons, that part was just sold off at the time. So I think the nation's really quite proud of its role it's actually played in Whistler over the last almost 20 years. And I think, culminating, I guess, in 2016 with actually approving Whistler Blackcombs lease extension with the province. So that was a really monumental occasion for the nations. So just a little bit about those structures. So the nation itself, it's a political body. It's got a level of government. It's got constitutional authority. We also have the cultural center that you see, obviously, in Whistler. It's a nonprofit society, and it's really the face of the nations, I think, in Whistler in terms of arts, culture, language, and really sharing the nation's stories. And then ourselves, the Lil'wat Business Group, which is the sort of independent economic and investment arm of the nation. So we are arm's length from the nation, sort of separate companies, separate boards of directors with independent and community directors that sort of guide the work that we do. There's been a lot of sort of discussion over the years, and right now we have a very firm mandate to generate profits and not sort of as a social enterprise, not to create employment opportunities, although that sort of is secondary to what we do, but really to generate profits for reinvestment by the nation. We are community owned and community driven, and that creates its own sets of challenges, as anybody in a political type role can imagine, that we feel like we have 2,000 shareholders who each have the right to show up at my door and tell us what we should be doing or not doing on a daily basis. Maxine spent 2 full days with them this week talking about some of the things we're doing. And then, our role is just really to be that economic engine. So, the nation is certainly behind the 8 ball in terms of employment rates, in terms of funding for government, in terms of lots of the things that they do. And our role is really to step in and try and fill that gap. So quickly, we actually are a relatively decent sized company. We have about $20 million in annual revenue, $1.5 million in annual profits, and we return about $600,000 to $800,000 a year back to the nation itself. And so that goes into projects like funding the cultural center in Whistler, into funding our own cultural center. We recently opened a youth center within the community, and so our money goes back and helps fund that operation. And then sort of whatever other sort of broad-based community projects are happening, our money kind of goes back to there, and we're trying to do a better job of selling that back to the community, so that when we're logging or we're, they're buying gas or they're doing whatever they do with some of our businesses, we're sharing the message about where that money is actually going and how that community is benefiting. We have about 70 direct employees in forestry and retail, and then we have about 35 employees through various strategic partnerships. Well, looking forward, we have a variety of projects in the Whistler area that we're really excited about. Probably first and foremost, as we move this one forward, is development function junction, which are pending final development permit approvals, which we should hopefully receive relatively quickly. We plan to start servicing in the spring and building early summer. So this sort of project has really morphed from when we acquired the land. We actually bought the Squamish Nation out of their 50% interest in the parcel in 2011. And, originally it sort of had it conceived as very typical to the rest of function, sort of really heavily weighted towards just sort of that commercial with maybe some office space on top. As we sort of dug in deeper and, in some ways, luckily held on to the properties over the last 6 or 7 years, as obviously you've seen employee housing be a huge need. So there's actually 44 residential restricted rental units that are planned for this property now, about 22,000 square feet of commercial space, a gas station and convenience store that will all be located sort of at the entryway to function in that cleared property. So we're really excited to sort of see that sort of aspirational legacy land agreement document from 2007, where the land was transferred, actually sort of come into fruition and generate some sort of real economic benefit for the nation. There's just a picture of sort of what it would look like coming into the development and the gas station. The second project we really want to sort of talk about in terms of how we really have seen ourselves trying to fit into this community is the Cheakamus Community Forest. So it was sort of conceived a 3-way partnership. If you look at the land base as a whole, it would have sustained an annual allowable cut, which is just a measure of how much wood you're allowed to harvest, about 50,000 meters. Whistler took a really strong interest in trying to reduce that to as low a number as possible, and worked with the 2 nations so that we actually contributed some of our own volumes into that partnership and reduced the amount that actually could be harvested down to about 20,000 cubic meters. And then beyond that, over the last couple of years particularly, we've actually taken a really keen interest on doing more fuel thinning work. So you actually look at that work that's being done. It's actually not a commercial harvesting operation. It's actually going in and taking out about 1 in 4 trees from large areas, doing some tree match removal. So really sort of meeting in this partnership sort of multiple goals. So the municipality's goals of limiting the amount of wood that it might actually be harvested in the area, our economic goals of creating employment opportunities, revenue opportunities, and safeguarding the resort. And as we become a partner in what the resort is doing, sort of safeguarding that large asset and that agreement that we have with that organization. There's actually work going on right now. I think there is about 60 hectares being cleared on both sides of Cheakamus Lake Road over the winter. So we've sort of been doing a ton of work through the winter to help protect the community here. And lastly, just as sort of an example of where on a business level we've really stepped out of what would have been our comfort zone 5 years ago. We actually put out a formal request for proposals to construction companies to say, like, how can we put together a program that meets all of our needs, which includes employment and training for Nation members. It includes bringing projects that we do on time and on budget. Really good communications. How do we build a long-term capacity in the community? How do we, and we've done some construction internally, and we've had some cost overruns, and at the end of the day, you're kind of the same organization, so you end up paying for it. We just had lots of challenges how we did it. So, really proud to say that Murphy Construction actually has 26 employees from the Lil'wat Nation now, and 22 of those people are in registered apprenticeship programs, so they are actually growing themselves, and culminating after 5 years in actually getting the contract and building the gondola barn on the new Blackcomb gondola this year. So really proud to be a part of that with our new agreement with Whistler Blackcomb and the sort of capacity that we've been building within the community. So those are just some of the examples of things that we've been doing within the Whistler community. I think some people might not be, aware of all those, little things or little influences that we've been having, but it really starts to add up when you look at it in that sort of holistic way. So thank you very much for listening to me today, and I look forward to sort of continuing the nation's economic aspirations in Whistler as we move forward. Thank you.
Just want to take this time too as well to thank Kerry Mehaffey for all his technical help that he's provided to the Lil'wat Nation. Some of the things we're doing is with the corporation monies that are going back to the nation, is we're putting our efforts into teaching our young people our language, and so a lot of our staff are also learning our language. One of the challenges I see right here is I think we need to do a little bit more to teach our language, because this actually is, there's a bit of an error in this word here. So it's in our language, it's both of us thanking all of you, so the proper way would be kukstamurkala. So I was trying to share that with Kerry, but I could say these things, but we're also in a challenging time to learn to write our language. So it's been an awesome experience. But some of the things it takes for us is patience. To start to build the gas station in Mount Currie, it took about 20 years to get there, just to start building. And we've now built our learning center, and there's a lot of people attending. There are about 60 people that are enrolled in our Uchalmiuch, our language class, and they're not all Lil'wat people. They're from the neighboring municipality and neighboring First Nations that are participating. So, our learning center is actually a bit of a business as well. So we have to, in order to keep that facility up and running, we have to be very creative. So the beautiful thing is people are interested in learning our language. And the opportunity I have to come here and speak with you guys is an opportunity for me to, is my form of reconciliation, getting to know you guys getting to know me. And it takes a lot of our courage to move forward on the mandate of making a profit, and it takes a lot of capacity building. We've done Forestry 101, and that not only included our people, but people throughout the region that came to our training. And also in construction, thanks like what Kerry Mehaffey was saying about Murphy Construction, we've built a fantastic relationship with that company. And I just spoke with the Pemberton Chamber of Commerce a few weeks ago, and it was, the presentation was awesome, but it was when we went into a coffee break, and then people were able to come and speak with me about the opportunities that we've provided to them. One of the construction companies has hired about 12 of our people, and that have gone through the construction training programs, and and they're now, a few of them are now carpentry journeymen, so it's, he was concerned that we were building gas stations, and he came to talk with me, and he says, please don't take your employees back from me because I'm using them really well. So it was good to be able to, I felt really good that the region is being able to utilize the skilled work task force that we have, that we're developing in Mount Currie. So it's been very exciting times for me, and to hear the RMOW speak about our relationship building is just awesome. I can't say much more positive things about where we're going, and it's just exciting. It's been taking a lot of patience. Like I said, I've been involved with economic development for about 10 years now, and it doesn't just happen in a couple of years. It takes decades for First Nations to move forward in economic development. Again, thank you all for being here and listening to our story. And from myself, Kukstamut Kalap Nifti.